Today we are working on trigonometry, but not just the introduction. We're going to actually just dive right into it and work some crazy radical questions over here. And some of them, we don't even have everything we need to find the ratios. From the previous lesson, we learned that trigonometry, the ratios are SOHCAHTOA. So sine, opposite over hypotenuse. Cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse, and tangent is opposite over adjacent. And you know by now, I will always start out by highlighting the hypotenuse. Some people struggle finding the hypotenuse, but it's okay. That's why I like to highlight it. So we know the hypotenuse will always be the hypotenuse. It doesn't matter if the angle as a reference changes. Okay. So here we go. We're trying to find cosine of angle D. Angle D is this angle right here. So I'm going to label everything on the triangle in relationship to angle D. So right here on the other side of angle D, I have this side. This side is opposite to angle D. And the side right next to angle D is adjacent side. Okay? So now here we go. I'm trying to find cosine of angle D. And it calls for cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse. So adjacent over hypotenuse. Adjacent side, right there, 2. Hypotenuse, highlighted in yellow, right there, 2 square root of 2. 2 square root of 2. Now, everybody knows you're supposed to simplify 2 divided by 2, you get 1. But it's a big no-no. You will never be allowed to leave the radical in the denominator. So you have to rationalize the denominator by multiplying top and bottom, or numerator and denominator, by square root of 2. So here I have square root of 2. I had an invisible 1 right here, okay? Square root of 2. Now here, square root of 2 times square root of 2, I get square root of 4. Square root of 4 is just 2. So the cosine of angle D is simply square root of 2 over 2. Not too bad. And you know it never stays that easy, but it's okay. So our next example, they weren't very nice to us right here. I highlighted the hypotenuse because it's right across from the 90-degree angle. But look, I don't have anything written over here. And you know, if I'm trying to find the cosine of angle T, cosine, I need the hypotenuse no matter what. Dun, dun, dun. I will use Pythagorean theorem to find the hypotenuse. Okay, so I have a squared plus b squared equals c squared. You have two options. One, you can put this in the calculator, you're going to get 8. The other one, if you're like super genius, you know, you remember that square and square roots, they simplified. So when you take the square of a square root, they simply simplify. You have 2 left over. Square and the square root simplified, you have 6 left over. So 2 plus 6 is 8. If you like to skip through the video, you will never understand where 8 came from. And it's okay, haha. Anyways, so here we have c squared is 8. For me to get rid of the square, I will have to square root. You know we need to simplify square root of 8 before we move on. Side lesson right here. When we're trying to take the square root of 8, we can simplify as in square root of 4, square root of 2. Square root of 4 because 4 is a perfect square. So I can simply take the square root of 4 and get 2, and then I get 2 square root of 2. So C is 2 square root of 2. That's all this work just to find the hypotenuse so I can start solving what the question wants us to find, the cosine of angle T. Cosine of angle T, T is right there. I will label everything before I start. So here, opposite to angle T, adjacent to angle T. Okay? cosine of angle T, cosine of angle T, adjacent over hypotenuse. So adjacent over hypotenuse. Adjacent right here is square root of 6. Hypotenuse right there, 2, square root of 2. You can simplify square root of 6 over square root of 2 just by simply dividing 6 by 2, and you get square root of 3. Woo, you can see right there. Okay? Very convenient. And sometimes it's easy if you can recognize that. If not, it's not a big deal. So when you simplify square root of 6 over square root of 2, you get square root of 3. And this 2 right here doesn't disappear. So it's over 2. A lot of material right there, okay? You're welcome to pause, rewind, watch it again, take side notes. My sticky notes, sometimes they're helpful to you, but I don't know what you need. All right, 2 more. Highlight the hypotenuse. And again, just like the previous example, we don't have everything we need. So we have to do Pythagorean theorem to find the hypotenuse before we can even start trying to do trigonometry right here. Okay, 9 squared plus 9 square root of 3 squared to find c squared. All right, put this on the calculator. You get 324. If you want to do this in your head, that's fine. 9 squared is 81. 9 squared is 81 times 3. But you don't have to show off all the time, you know. So c is the square root of 324. And luckily, 324 is a perfect square. When you take the square root of that, you get 18. Sometimes we get lucky. Sometimes we have cute little triangles like that. So when you find the cosine of angle S, you get, oh, we can't start yet. We didn't label our stuff. So opposite to angle S right there, we have opposite. Right here, neighbor to angle S, we have adjacent. Now we can start. So cosine calls for adjacent over hypotenuse. Adjacent, right here, I just labeled it, 9. Hypotenuse, right here, 18. Isn't that pretty? And some of you are able to identify this triangle as 30, 60, 90 triangle because we have 90 is right across from 30. 90, when you double, you get 18. And then from 9, and then you multiply by square root of 3 to get right across from 60. But it's okay if you don't make that connection. It's okay. I'm not judging. It was just, you know, too much that I had to talk about it. Okay. All right. Last one. Hypotenuse. Right there highlighted. Man, why don't they just give us everything? It would be too easy. So a squared plus b squared is c squared. Watch out for the catch here. The longest side, or the hypotenuse, is always c. Okay? You're not always finding c like we did in examples 2 and 3, but just be careful on what they give you. So right here, I will have to do a squared right there plus b squared right there equals c squared right there. A and B doesn't matter which one you give this one to. What really matters is C, okay? C will always have to be the hypotenuse. When you square this one, you get 288 because 12 squared is 144 times 2, 288. You can't see. Or you can just simply put the whole thing in the calculator. 12 square root of, 2, and then square. You get the same 288. So 288 right here plus b squared, and then you put this in the calculator, 1152. All right. Take away 288 from both sides. And here I have 864. when you take the square root of this giant thing, you're like, I know I should be looking into simplifying that radical. Yes, you're right. You have to simplify the radical. But here's the trick. You can go to y equals and plug that in. Divide by x squared. When you go to the table, you're trying to find the lowest y. Because the way you read this, you go 4 square root of 54. Well, when you look at square root of 54, you know that you have to keep on simplifying the radical. Okay? So, and then you go, oh, okay, 6 square root of 24. You're like, I know I can simplify that some more. So you keep going until you find the lowest y. Okay? So the way you write this is 12 square root of 6. And then I'll do a whole other lesson on how to simplify this by hand without the trick in the calculator. Okay, here we go. Now we have this opposite to angle J that I just found. Took me 45 hours, Just kidding. To find opposite to angle J. So this is opposite. This is hypotenuse. This is adjacent. Right next door to the angle. Adjacent. All right. So sine of angle J. Sine calls for opposite over hypotenuse. So opposite to angle J, I just found is 12 square root of 6. Over hypotenuse. Hypotenuse is right there highlighted in yellow. 24 square root of 2. So we have a couple things to simplify right here. You have to simplify 12 and 24. You get 1/2. And like we did on the second example, where we had to simplify the square root of 6 and square root of 2, 6 divided by 2 is just 3. So you can go from here to square root of 3. So square root of 3 over 2. Because from here, you simplify down to square root of 3. Okay? Don't overthink it. Don't overdo it. You got it. You got it. Can't even talk today. See you later.